What else are you hearing from the palace tonight about Princess Catherine's condition, not to mention the timing of this?
For weeks, the air around Buckingham Palace had been thick with speculation. Royal observers scrutinized every movement, every photograph, every absence, while whispers spread across media outlets and dinner tables alike. Something wasn't right, but no one was prepared for what came next. Then, suddenly, the palace spoke, and what it revealed left the nation breathless. King Charles and Prince William appeared before a stunned press corps, their faces grim and voices heavy. The silence surrounding Princess Kate's condition was not just broken, it was shattered. The truth behind her illness proved far more tragic than anyone had imagined. It all began with an unannounced call to the media, a rare and urgent press conference at Clarence House that even senior royal correspondents hadn't anticipated. When the cameras went live, King Charles stepped forward without prepared notes or a teleprompter, wearing a solemn expression and eyes clouded with emotion. His voice cracked as he addressed the nation. "This is not a statement I ever imagined I would have to make." The kind of vulnerability that the monarchy had long avoided for generations was now laid bare, raw and unfiltered. The revelation was unfiltered and heartbreaking. Prince William stood tall beside his father at first, but moments into his address, the cracks appeared. His voice faltered, and he gripped the lectern, struggling to steady his hands. When he said, "My wife's condition has taken a tragic turn," he paused, and the silence that followed spoke louder than any headline. Blinking rapidly, fighting back tears, he finished with a trembling, "And we are preparing for the worst." It was more than an admission, it was a confession. The royal family had known. For how long, no one yet knew. The tone of their statements and the weight of their words hinted at a truth long buried beneath royal protocol and image control. Details were scarce, but one fact emerged clearly. Kate's health was not improving. It had reached a critical, possibly irreversible stage. Public appearances had been quietly cancelled for months, with the palace insisting she was simply resting or recharging. Now, all reassurances evaporated. Social media erupted, news anchors struggled to remain composed, and headlines worldwide scrambled to interpret the confirmation. Questions multiplied. Why now? Why wait so long? Had the palace misled the public? The emotional unraveling of Charles and William signaled not only grief but conflict about trust, image, and a monarchy fighting to retain dignity in the face of looming despair. To grasp the full weight of this moment, one must look back to the quiet suffering, the internal battles, and the calculated cover-ups that brought the royal family here. While the cameras captured a smiling princess, palace insiders whispered of midnight doctor visits, emergency meetings, and a growing rift behind gilded doors. The woman hailed as the future queen was waging a private war, with enemies not only illness but silence, power, and fear. The public saw a carefully orchestrated performance. A few appearances, a wave here, a smile there. Behind the gates of Kensington, however, the truth was unraveling rapidly. 2 months before the palace's announcement, Catherine reportedly collapsed during a private charity engagement, an incident kept secret under the guise of a migraine, though she had been unconscious for over 20 minutes. Soon after, she vanished from public view. Initially, this meant subtle schedule changes delayed or shortened appearances, claimed as rest or family time, but the explanations began to falter. Palace staff spoke in hushed tones. Rumors circulated of private ambulances, late-night medical equipment deliveries, and specialists flown in from Switzerland under strict non-disclosure agreements. Each expert left without public acknowledgement, yet the gravity of the situation grew more undeniable within the palace walls. Tensions within the palace were reaching a breaking point. Prince William wanted the truth made public. He believed the nation deserved to know, but senior aides urged restraint, insisting, "The monarchy is not a hospital. The crown must remain stable." Furious, William reportedly stormed out of a meeting when the communications team refused to change their messaging, torn between duty to his wife and duty to the throne. King Charles faced his own conflict. Decades of preparation had taught him that the royal family survives by controlling the narrative. Transparency, he feared, could spark panic. Yet this was no public scandal, it was a personal catastrophe, and in the tension between duty and emotion, he hesitated. Into that hesitation stepped Camilla, who, according to palace insiders, urged restraint to preserve the monarchy's image, warning aides, "We don't need another Diana situation," till many in the family. Her concern seemed more about optics than Kate's well-being, and her influence over Charles intensified as his uncertainty grew, deepening the strain within an already fragile household. Meanwhile, Kate's condition worsened in silence. The pressure to smile for cameras and appear composed was slowly eroding her spirit. Behind the poised photograph she took with William, she endured nights when she couldn't stand, moments when her memory faltered, and quiet cries behind soundproof walls that no title could silence. And while the palace debated how and when to disclose the truth, they overlooked the most vulnerable: the children. As Kate's health deteriorated in the shadows, the impact on her family quietly grew, unseen by the public, yet deeply felt within the walls of Kensington. The storm was not in Kate's body, but in the minds of her children, quietly being prepared for the unthinkable. How do you explain to children that their mother may not recover, that her hugs may grow fewer, her voice softer, her time limited? Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, royal heirs by birth, but still just children, were being pulled into a reality far too cruel for their innocent hearts. The palace knew this moment would come, yet no preparation could soften its weight. George, the eldest, had already sensed something deeply wrong. In the weeks before the public announcement, his teachers noticed a stark change in his demeanor. His once inquisitive spirit dimmed, replaced by long silences and a constant gaze toward the gates at pickup time, as if hoping for a familiar face that no longer came. Within Kensington's walls, tension was thick. Nanny Maria, a figure of constancy in the children's lives, confided that nights had become unbearable, filled with quiet crying not just from the children, but from behind locked doors. Sleep had become fleeting, comfort a memory. Once a bedtime story and a mother's kiss now existed only as trembling promises whispered through closed eyes. Perhaps most heartbreaking were Kate's private gestures. Knowing her condition could steal time, she wrote personal letters to each child, sealed, locked away, unread, meant for moments when they would need her most, even if she could not be there. William knew the moment for honesty could no longer be delayed. One chilly morning, he took George for a walk. No security, no cameras, just father and son. Palace sources believe this was when he shared the truth. What was said remains private, but when they returned, George did not speak for a long while, the silence heavy with understanding far beyond his years. For the rest of the day, George remained silent, and from that moment, his childhood seemed a little further away. Charlotte, always the sensitive one, began refusing to sleep in her own bed, taking her mother's pillow, curling up near the bedroom door, and asking each night if she could wait for her to come back. She clung to routines, scents, and small reminders of her mother, a child's desperate attempt to hold on to love and time slipping away too soon. Even Louis, the youngest, sensed something, though his understanding was limited. The hushed tones, exchanged glances, and changes in conversation wove a web of worry around him, and his repeated questions, "Where's Mommy?" were never fully answered. Behind the scenes, the Crown worked through established protocols for preparing royal children for parental absence, consulting psychologists and holding briefings, but no title or training could shield a child from heartbreak. As the palace tried to contain grief, the weight of impending loss pressed heavier each day. Meanwhile, a far more explosive tension unfolded between Charles and William over who would decide the fate of the monarchy during Catherine's absence. One was king, the other the future, yet when it came to handling Kate's crisis, they clashed like thunder and fire through private memos, heated phone calls, and even a near walkout. At the heart of the conflict lay not just a generational divide but a philosophical one. Charles, shaped by a lifetime of royal restraint and protocol, clung to the doctrine passed down by Queen Elizabeth: never complain, never explain. To him, silence was strength. Concealing the truth was not deception, it was tradition. The monarchy survived by projecting stability, not vulnerability, and Charles's instinct was to protect the institution, even at the cost of personal pain. Behind the palace walls, William saw the storm approaching. He knew the public was watching, dissecting every appearance, every delay, every awkward excuse, and he feared the cost of silence would be catastrophic. For weeks, he pleaded with palace advisors to release a statement, to speak honestly, to stop hiding behind carefully rehearsed lines. His concern was not just transparency, it was about trust. The same public that had embraced him and Kate for their modern approach was beginning to feel misled, and once that faith cracked, rebuilding it could be impossible. The breaking point came at Balmoral during a private, urgent summit with Charles, William, Camilla, and senior aides. No press, no cameras. What was meant to be a strategy session quickly unraveled. Insiders later revealed shouting echoed through the old stone corridors as William accused Charles of placing the monarchy above family, and Charles snapped back, questioning William's emotional judgment. What unfolded was not a debate but a generational collision. Camilla, ever the strategist, reportedly sided with Charles, emphasizing that the crown must not appear weak and urging caution, control, and careful language. For William, Her stance deepened his growing resentment. Her influence felt less like protection and more like obstruction, a stark reminder that even in crisis, palace politics reigned. Then came the leaks. Medical memos previously buried deep in confidential files reached the press, revealing that Kate's condition had been known far earlier than admitted. Accusations of betrayal erupted inside the palace. 2 senior aides were quietly dismissed, one of whom had reportedly supported William's plea for openness. The palace walls were no longer protecting secrets, they were cracking from within. In the end, neither side truly won. The monarchy could not afford a fracture, not with the world watching. A fragile compromise emerged. Charles would speak first, with dignity and distance, followed by William, bringing emotion and humanity. 2 voices, 1 message, a single front but built on very different truths. Notably absent from the palace discussions was a woman whose silence spoke louder than words and whose grief ran deeper than blood. Princess Anne. Known for her steely composure, she was unprepared for the fury that rose within her upon learning how Kate's condition had been managed. For Anne, this was not merely a family matter, it was a betrayal. What began as a quiet disagreement soon erupted into open confrontation. Already frustrated by the palace's secrecy and indecision, she reached her breaking point upon discovering that key details about Kate's health had been deliberately withheld from several senior family members, including herself. In a high-level meeting, she turned to Charles and accused him directly of negligence. "She is not just your daughter-in-law," she reportedly snapped, "she is the future of this family, and you've treated her like a liability." When Camilla attempted to interject in defense of the palace's strategy, Anne's response was swift and scathing. "This is not your narrative to spin," she reportedly said, her voice rising in a rare show of defiance. That moment shifted the palace atmosphere, revealing Anne's loyalty to Kate as a visible force rather than a quiet one. Weeks before the public learned the truth, Anne had quietly visited the hospital where Kate was being treated. There were no press briefings, no security spectacle, just a private visit, arranged without fanfare. Those close to Anne said she held Kate's hand for nearly an hour. Words were scarce, but every gesture communicated the depth of her support and care. During her private visit, Anne made a decisive choice: to act, to speak, and to protect. She soon penned a private letter to William, not one of formality, but a stark warning. In it, she implored him not to let history repeat itself, a chilling reference to the fate of Diana decades earlier, when another woman in the palace had been isolated, manipulated, and ultimately broken by silence. Determined that Kate would not suffer the same, Anne's next gesture was deeply symbolic. She placed a brooch once belonging to Queen Elizabeth beside Kate's hospital bed, a piece worn by the late Queen during times of national crisis. It was Anne's message that this moment, too, was a crisis, and that Kate, like Elizabeth, was a pillar of strength, not to be sidelined. When news of Anne's actions and her confrontations with Charles and Camilla leaked, the public responded with overwhelming support. She became a symbol of truth, accountability, and quiet, unshakable strength, showing that not every royal follows the script. But behind the fury and fragile alliances, a pressing question remained. What exactly was Kate's diagnosis, and why had the truth been so tightly controlled? The revelation that followed shocked the nation. Princess Catherine was battling an aggressive neurological illness. Initially misdiagnosed as a minor autoimmune disorder, the reality was far graver. It was progressive, invasive, and dangerously advanced. What the public did not know was how long the palace had withheld the truth. Private specialists, including Swiss neurologists brought in under strict secrecy, had raised red flags nearly a year earlier, proposing interventions that could have slowed the deterioration, but their recommendations met resistance. The palace communications team argued that releasing such information could jeopardize the monarchy's image, keeping the truth buried beneath layers of control until the official statement finally came on a quiet morning, deliberately timed to avoid evening headlines. After months of speculation, rumors, and silence, the palace confirmed what many had feared, delivering a reality far more devastating than anticipated. The palace's hesitation to release sensitive information had devastating consequences. By delaying disclosure, the window for early treatment closed, and with it, any chance for stabilization. In desperation, William and Kate sought an experimental neuroregenerative trial in Germany, a high-risk treatment offering hope but no guarantees. The process was brutal, invasive, and ultimately unsuccessful. Kate's condition worsened during the trial, forcing her early return to the UK. Publicly, the palace issued only a vague statement that she was continuing to rest and respond well, a lie she knew all too well. Shortly after returning, Kate recorded a private voice memo, never intended for public release, but legendary among her team. Please don't let them lie for me. If this is the truth, let it be told in my voice, not filtered, not softened. It was a quiet, raw plea filled with dignity, fear, and an unmistakable demand for honesty. The palace ignored it, instead issuing conflicting medical briefings internally. Even senior royals were kept in the dark, with some believing she suffered from stress or an autoimmune condition, and few, if any, were told the full truth until it became impossible to conceal. When the moment finally came, it was not the crown that blinked first, but a nurse, whose anonymous confession revealed a night of sheer terror. We thought she wouldn't make it through. Her body just gave out, and we waited, not knowing if she'd ever wake up again. That moment shattered the illusion of stability. Kate's health crisis had become a national heartbreak. Yet she never asked for pity, remaining poised even as her body failed her, determined that the world hear her truth rather than a filtered version. Then, defying the crown's expectations, she made a final private decision. A letter, typed with trembling hands and signed in her own hand, addressed to the world and her children. Locked away for weeks, debated behind palace doors, it faced resistance. Charles reportedly hesitated, and Camilla warned of emotional chaos, but William insisted it be released as Kate's final wish. Its opening line stunned the nation. If you're reading this, I've chosen truth over tradition. In that single phrase, she dismantled the centuries-old veil used to conceal grief. She was no longer speaking as a duchess or future queen, but as a woman, a wife, and most powerfully, a mother. Her words to William were stripped of grandeur yet brimming with soul. You don't need to be strong. Just be honest. It was a plea not for loyalty to the crown, but for vulnerability, to let the world see the cracks, because within those cracks lived humanity itself. The final lines of Kate's letter revealed the truth the palace had hidden for too long, a message only she could have written, graceful in tone but unflinchingly brave in intent. Her words to George, Charlotte, and Louis were devastating yet crafted not in sadness, but in legacy. To George, she spoke of responsibility. To Charlotte, resilience. To Louis, joy. She promised them that even in absence, her love would never leave them. Though the palace debated omitting the children's sections to preserve privacy, William stood firm. They deserved to know what she said because one day they would need it. The letter concluded with a single powerful line that would echo through history. The crown means nothing without love. That sentence stripped the monarchy of its formalities and exposed its core, redefining it. Kate was not questioning the institution but reminding the world that without compassion and honesty, the crown was just metal and duty, but with love, it could become something far greater. Within hours, the letter went viral. Entire news cycles paused to read it aloud, world leaders quoted her final line, and schools across the globe discussed its meaning. People everywhere lit candles not out of pity, but out of respect. The once quiet princess had spoken louder than the institution she represented. Yet just as resignation seemed to sweep the kingdom, an unexpected figure stepped forward. Dr. Eliza Harrow, a world-renowned neuroregenerative researcher and former royal medical advisor who had vanished from the palace nearly a decade ago after a bitter, very public falling out with King Charles. Though her departure was officially labeled a philosophical disagreement, insiders now reveal it was far uglier. She had challenged the hierarchy, resisted interference, and accused Charles of letting protocol hinder progress. Silenced and quietly exiled, she had built an undeniable legacy in the United States, pioneering a cutting-edge treatment for advanced neurological conditions once deemed untreatable. Early trials were promising, though the therapy remained experimental and unapproved in the United Kingdom. That did not stop William. Desperate and determined, he reached out to Harrow in secret, under intense security and away from the palace's watchful eyes, hoping she might hold the key to rewriting Kate's fate. Under palace oversight, William and Dr. Harrow met in a quiet London flat arranged by a trusted aide. Harrow laid out the process, the risks, and the unknowns. It wasn't a guarantee, but it was a chance, and for William, that was enough. What followed was a storm of controversy. Though legal in parts of the United States, the treatment required bypassing multiple UK health regulations. Exceptions needed to be granted, paperwork signed, and the palace required to step aside, but not everyone was ready. Camilla, sources say, was livid, warning Charles that allowing such a risky procedure could tarnish the monarchy's image, questioning the repercussions if it failed, and privately labeling it reckless emotionalism. The implication was clear. Kate's battle, however tragic, should not become a public experiment. Outside the palace walls, however, the public had already chosen a side. Once Dr. Harrow's involvement leaked, global support erupted. Hashtags trended, petitions gained millions of signatures, protests formed, and a single phrase became a rallying cry: "Let Kate decide." Celebrities, politicians, and even former royals joined the chorus. The narrative shifted from tragedy to defiance, from silence to rebellion. The monarchy stood once again at a crossroads, torn between image and humanity. Outside Kensington, crowds gathered, cameras rolled, and the windows remained shut, with only a single candle flickering in the hallway visible from the gates. Britain held its breath, hoping for a miracle, and it was clear the monarchy would never be the same. Media camps lined the pavements, their lights cutting through the night as journalists, even seasoned ones, admitted this moment felt unprecedented. No script, no roadmap, only waiting. Globally, landmarks from Paris to New York glowed in soft white light. Cathedral bells tolled quietly at dusk, and messages poured in from presidents, prime ministers, and ordinary citizens alike. Across the UK, makeshift memorials appeared not for a death, but for a legacy now hanging in fragile balance. On social media, one phrase trended endlessly: "With you, Catherine." Inside Kensington, the silence was deafening. William and the children had not been seen in 5 days. Aides issued carefully worded updates resting, stable, hopeful, but no confirmation of what the public desperately wanted to know. Would she survive, and what would become of the family if she didn't? Yet amid uncertainty, something deeper was growing: devotion. Letters flooded the palace mailroom, murals appeared, schools held moments of silence, and churches remained open around the clock. The nation grieved collectively, preemptively, but in that grief emerged a recognition that the monarchy had never faced this before. A woman beloved not for perfection, but for her humanity, was fighting a battle the crown could not shield her from. And as the line between royal and real blurred, so did the definition of strength itself.